Eps. In our recent video about whether or not fish can drown, we got a ton of comments telling us that fish can't breathe underwater because they don't have lungs. And that got us thinking, how do fish breathe underwater at all? It turns out that while it's easy to take their ability to breathe underwater for granted, everything about fish's lives has had to evolve for them to be able to do so. Hi, it's me, and this is Life Noggin. First off, let's get one thing straight. When we say underwater, we mean below the surface of the water in an aquatic environment, not just below your toilet seat. With that understood, let's go back to the whole fish can't breathe underwater thing. This idea likely comes from the fact that we as humans need air to breathe, and we have lungs to take that air in and move oxygen into our bloodstreams. Without air, we can only stay underwater for a few minutes before drowning. But fish don't need air, even though they live underwater all the time. Instead, fish breathe underwater using gills. Gills are made up of lots of thin, small blood vessels surrounded by a large surface area of extremely thin, moist cells. These structures allow fish to absorb oxygen from the water around them and release carbon dioxide into the water. But there are some important caveats to how this works. First, the water needs to be moving over the gills in order for oxygen to be absorbed. If it's not moving, then oxygen can't move from the water into the blood. Just like how you couldn't breathe if air wasn't moving into your lungs. This is why many fish need to constantly swim or pump water over their gills in order to breathe. Some fish have evolved to be able to move their gills independently of their bodies by using muscles around their gills. These muscles enable the fish to force water over their gills without needing to move their whole body. The second caveat is that the oxygen in the water needs to be at a higher concentration than in the blood for oxygen to move from the water into the blood. Otherwise, the direction of movement would be reversed, and the fish would be taking in less oxygen instead of more. As animals living underwater, fish also produce carbon dioxide as a waste product, which builds up in their blood. So they need to get rid of this excess carbon dioxide as well. Because carbon dioxide moves from areas of high concentration to low concentration. It leaves their blood and enters the water because their S are lower concentration of carbon dioxide in the water than in the blood. This constant exchange of gases between the fish and its environment keeps both the fish and the surrounding environment at equilibrium. Now, it's worth mentioning that there are some places in the ocean where the oxygen levels can drop so low that it becomes hard for fish to breathe. For example, deep waters tend to have less oxygen than surface waters. In areas with lots of organic matter, like the deep sea and stagnant waters, can have very little oxygen due to decomposition. However, most aquatic environments have enough dissolved oxygen for fish to survive. Some of you might be wondering how much oxygen is actually in water compared to air. And it turns out that water can hold more oxygen than air. At 20 degrees Celsius. Air can hold about 179 milliliters of oxygen per liter, whereas water can hold about 283 milliliters of oxygen per liter. However, this doesn't mean fish can breathe easier underwater than we can in air. It's because of the way their bodies are structured. Their thin, moist gill tissues make their surface area for gas exchange much greater than ours. Also, the concentration of oxygen in water is generally lower than in air. And as we mentioned earlier, the difference in concentration between the water and the blood is what drives the absorption of oxygen. So there you have it. While we couldn't imagine trying to breathe underwater, fish have evolved to not only survive but thrive underwater thanks to their gills. Now, as we were researching this video, we came across some really interesting stuff that didn't quite fit in. Like the fact that fish use different parts of their gills for breathing and excretion. We'll talk about it in a future episode, but in the meantime, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, it's me. This has been Life Noggin. Don't forget to keep on thinking.